Perfect. So we're all good now?
Yes.
Great, thank you, Bina. Once again, this funding from this program has been brought to you in part by the USDA, the Administration for Community Living Grant, and through the New York City Department of Education. So today's recipe is going to be chocolate chip banana bread. And for that, we're going to list ingredients, but first, as we all know, and traditionally we have said that every time you're dealing with food and in the kitchen, always wash your hands. So my hands have been washed, but just sort of to demonstrate, it's about a 20-second thing that you can, you know, think you have to flush it or something like that. So make sure you wash your hands and apply good safety in the kitchen. Great. So now the ingredients are 4 cups of flour. The recipe says, because we're gonna make it healthier, the recipe says about 1.5 cup of whole wheat flour and 1 cup of 1/2 cup of the all-purpose. Believe it or not, but I couldn't find whole wheat flour in my neighborhood. So I go for all-purpose flour. But the recipe says for whole wheat, which I highly recommend, but I couldn't find it. So then we're gonna have 1 cup of sugar right here. And we're gonna have a pinch of salt, as we said. We're gonna put this on the side so that way we declutter our area. And then we're gonna also use this for non-sticking oil. For the pan, we're gonna put this batter after all we finish. And then we have 1/2 cup of chocolate chips cookies. We also have 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And barely beaten egg. So here you can see, it's been sitting there for a couple of minutes only. And then we have the vanilla, I already told you, about 1/4 of cup of canola oil, right here. And the baking soda, and that looks like this. You've probably all seen this. And salt, as I mentioned. And last but not least, bananas. So the recipe calls for 4 bananas like this. One point about the bananas, the riper, the better, in my opinion, because they have more sugar. I'm not sure if I mentioned also the 1/2 cup of yogurt. So, but as I'm mixing the ingredients, I will be mentioning them as well. So first thing first, we're gonna smash the bananas. So let me move this over here. Actually, no, let's just do this. Let's start with the dry ingredients, right? Dry ingredients. And the recipes are flour, sugar, put that aside, and we mix that well. Can everybody see this? I hope, Bina?
Yeah, we can see it.
Very good, thank you.
Sure.
Dry ingredients first. Like I said, 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/2 teaspoon of salt go in there. That away. This is important to mix it well because baking soda is what's gonna mix it right. And so if it's not well mixed, then we have a problem. I don't claim to be a baker. I'm more of a cook than a baker. But banana bread was one of my favorite things I learned to do during the pandemic. And that was perhaps one of the few things I've ever baked. So banana bread is not really a difficult thing to do, honestly. So that the dry ingredients have been mixed. Now we're going to mix the wet ingredients. How about that? Can everyone see that? I found this smasher buried somewhere in my cabinet last night. And I go like, wow, this makes it really easy for folks out there suffering from arthritis, things like that, right? Because of grabbing makes it difficult, it's a challenge. And with this recipe also, what I noticed is that a fork, what they also recommend using a fork, well, I'm not so sure that works for people with having some challenges like rheumatoid, like I said, in painful joints. So this is something that perhaps you should think about if you want to make the recipe. Either do this like I used it for guacamole or something like this in the past. But also you can have the option of doing it with a fork, right? And then also with a spoon, with the back of the spoon, which I have used before, like this part here. You know, like the back of the spoon, that would be helpful. It has more strength. So that's the wet, that's the bananas. You can see it turn a little wet and brownish. This is because the bananas have been really ripened. So I really appreciate that. Now we're gonna add the egg. Again, all wet ingredients. For that, I'm going to use a spoon to mix it. Lift this here like this. And continue to smash a little bit more as you go. There is an electrical mixer that you can use also, and it will be a lot faster. I don't have one, but at home, if you haven't, please, that will make your life a lot easier. And then we're gonna use half a cup, of yogurt. A lot of noise here. I'll show you the batter in a moment. Now we're gonna use the oil, 1/4 of a cup. And this, you have to really mix it well. And now I'm gonna change tool. I'm gonna use a whisker because this is gonna mix all the ingredients well. And might as well just put the vanilla extract right there. Now, let's take a look at what this looks like now. Bananas are good in potassium and phosphorus. So this is probably why some of you have been suggested by your doctor to eat a banana a day. But then also it's contraindicated for other things, right? So we got that down, the vanilla. It tells me for putting the chocolate chips in there yet, but I'm not gonna do that yet, simply because I want to slowly bring back my friend, the flour mix that we had before, slowly adding it to the mix, to the wet mix. Why am I doing this? Well, first of all, because I want to avoid a mess, right? I don't want that. So I want to make sure that it all stays within the container, within the bowl. Not on the floor, not on the counter. Well, if you have a little bit of spill, that's okay, like me, right? And if it falls on the floor, well, you may have a friend that follows you around. He or she may eat it. So now I'm gonna add more Look at all the ingredients. This is gonna be so yummy. And again, you know, please, by all means, find the whole wheat flour, as it will provide more of a healthy kick to your recipe. If you do that. I would have gone for that in a minute, but I just couldn't find it. But the color will also change. It will be a little browner, you know. Now it's getting a little hard, right? But if I continue to mix it, it will get to the point where the consistency that I want, which is loose, but not soupy. And that's what I'm looking for. And right now, I am going to change tools. I have more here because this one works better. See? Let me show you. See, this one works better. Bina, can they see this? I wonder.
Yeah, if you bring it a little bit closer to under the camera, yeah, that's a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Now you see the mix is slightly loose, but not soupy. And now it's time for the chocolate chips. A little bit for now, while I mix them well. Everything with patience and going slow. And with baking, is one of those things that you cannot really, when I add the rest, you cannot really make things up because then the recipe gets compromised. And it's not gonna be what you expected it to be. And then you go like, what? Look how nice this is. Now, I wonder if, well, the audience will probably come up with questions. If we can substitute the chocolate chips, put something else in there. Now we can enter a discussion about water content, or depending on what else goes in here, which will compromise, will change the recipe structurally as well. You know, so there we go. Here we go, folks. So we're ready to pour this on a 8 to 9 inch loaf bread baking sheet, basically, baking pan, right? So we're gonna put this in here, all the batter in there, that means. But also I'm using this non-stick oil, so that way when it's done, it's time to take it out, then it will come all together and not fall apart. Also, I must mention to you that the oven needs to be preheated at 350 Fahrenheit, so that once you have it at that temperature, you can put your banana bread in there and bake it for, the recipe says it calls for 47 minutes, 45 minutes if you have an 8-inch loaf, or 9 minutes or 50 minutes if you have a 9-inch loaf. Well, it's all, I don't know what you will be using for this recipe in your house, but I tell you, give it a little, make sure that your oven is calibrated, because I suspect that mine isn't, because it took a little longer and I had to take a look and follow always the rule of thumb. Stick a toothpick or a little knife in there, and if it comes out dry, then you know it's done. But it comes out wet, well, you need to leave it a little longer, right? And that's what happened to me. So I'm just a word of caution. Great, so I'm ready to do this now. So I also thought about folks having difficulties pouring, you know, somewhat heavy ingredients or things in the kitchen. So I come up with this way. This later will do, at least take some of the way out, right? Initially. And then, sorry about the noise. And then as it gets lower, the batter and the ball there, so it's going to be less heavy, obviously, right? And now easier to pour. That's just one tip if you're having difficulties. Because I noticed that, yeah, this is not, lifting might be an issue. I'll put this here, and I'm gonna do this. You know, the spatula, they come very handy. So I recommend you getting spatula in your kitchen, these little ones, because it does make your life easier. Little tools. And voila. Now, my oven has been preheated, so I should be good to go for about 15 minutes, right? But I'm gonna have mercy on you guys. I'm not gonna make you wait 50 minutes to taste this delicious recipe. I always like to make a little, you know, look nice. So now this baby's going to go in the oven, and you can barely see the chips there, but they're all in there as you saw me putting them. And so again, 350 preheated for 50 minutes. Take a look, stick a knife in there, a little knife. And if it comes out dry, then you know that it's done. Okay, so let's put this aside. And now, Bina, if you don't mind, we're ready for questions for folks while we're waiting a little bit to start cooking.
Okay, great. That recipe really looks delicious, and I'm sure it's going to come out amazing. I can't wait to see the final product. We did have some questions that came in through the chat. The first question is, can you use raw sugar or brown sugar?
Good question. You know, well, sugar is sugar, right? So it's not going to be one is less processed, yes. But at the end of the day, sugar is sugar. But what I found is I had the same dilemma because all I use in my house is brown sugar. And I'm like, should I put this? But then I remember back during the pandemic when I was doing a lot of baking, it really didn't, because it's raw sugar, it didn't melt well, it didn't mix well. Because these are, you know, the egg, the bananas are cold ingredients, so it really didn't mix well. That was my experience. There might be something that you can do to change that, but I'm not, I don't know about it. But yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Okay, great. And the next question is, did you sift the flour?
No, I didn't. But if that's something that you like to do, just to extra clean it or make it a little more refined. But you see, when it comes to baking, you sift the flour when you want something really delicate, and not only in pastries, but also in sauces, you know, that require flour, because you don't want any type of little lumps in there that will damage, that will, you know, will not leave a good taste on the, you know, as you try in your dish. But it's more so in sauces and also for like creams and things like that that are used in baking as well. So that's why you want to do that, because you don't want any type of lumping. But in this situation here is bread. So need for sifting, if you feel good about that, then by all means. But there's no need for that. Nutritionally, you're not taking anything away.
Okay, and there was one comment that came in through the chat. One person prefers using nuts over chocolate chips.
Of course, yeah. Banana nut bread, sure. Absolutely. Pecans would have been my walnuts, perhaps. I would probably chop it very small pieces, just because folks may have issues with dentures and stuff like that. And also maybe a little risk for choky, perhaps. But I definitely do that. Another suggestion I may add is I would put blueberries and make a blueberry banana bread, right? But one word of caution there is that if you use it fresh fruit, the water content of that fruit is going to compromise your recipe. So in this situation, you may want to use frozen, right? Frozen blueberries, because it will be less moist and your recipe will not be watery. You want that bread to rise. And so be careful with fresh fruit. I will do a little bit of research, but that's all I know, that you need to be like, this is the reason why you, the recipe for, what is it, pineapple upside down cakes, they call for canned pineapple, no fresh pineapple, because of the fluid.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to submit them through the chat.
And this is what I baked early this morning.
Oh, wow. That looks amazing. Yum.
It does. I have to tell you, it does. I was afraid it was not going to rise. Oh my God, I was like praying, rise, rise, rise. One thing that a friend told me, and this is all sharing tips during the pandemic, that he also never baked before. So that what he said is like, if you open the oven door before it even rise, forget it. It's never going to rise. I don't know why, but he told me that. So I was very careful not to do that, and it worked. So you can see the shape of it. I'm so proud of it.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm sure it probably smells amazing when it's baking, right?
But it was baking, right. Exactly. It still smells good though, but not anymore. So let's cut it in between. That's what I'm more curious about. Well, can you see this, Mina?
Yeah, it looks really fresh the way that you're able to cut into it. Yum.
Yeah, I know. That's what. Oh, wow. Look at this.
Mm.
Oh, little ant there. So there you have it, folks. Here is the chocolate chip banana bread, just in time for Mother's Day. You can bake it for your mom and make it a little healthier with using the whole wheat flour. Yeah, your mom will love it. She will feel special, and she's gotta be special every day for the year. So any questions, any more questions, folks?
Yes, there was another question that came in. Do you defrost the blueberries or put them in frozen?
I put them in, I probably defrost them because it lose all the remaining fluid, and then use them.
Okay, great. All right, so I don't see any more questions in the chat.
I'd like to know if anyone has any suggestions as to what other substitution can be made. And aside the fact that the flour has a lot of good nutrients in it, the whole wheat flour and the banana that has potassium and phosphorus in it, I wonder what else can we find that is good for our, it's good nutrition. The nuts, that was a good suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
And the fruits also a good suggestion. But folks, feel free to be adventurous in the kitchen. With baking, it's a little bit difficult to be too adventurous. But you can always do things. And then next time, if it didn't work, then the next time you know, right? Great, and I would probably use a little sauce on this at the bottom of the dish, you know? Yeah. Or you just a slice of that for breakfast, which I'm probably going to do.
And another question is, can you use all whole wheat flour?
What kind of flour?
Like, can you use whole wheat flour entirely to replace it with the white flour?
Yeah, yeah, and I did a little bit of research on that. And what would happen is it will come out really dense. So meaning that if you're familiar with German bread, that is a little bit dense, you know, like, I don't want to say hard because it's good bread and you can chew it fine, no problem, but it's a little more compact because of the flour has more ingredients in it, you know, like the whole wheat, everything is there. So any comments on that, Bina? What would you say?
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds great.
Again, I'm not a big baker, but that's what I found, that it will give that consistency of being a little dense. As opposed to, because dense will dry out fast too. And you want something like this to last you a little bit. And I think the mix between 2/3 being whole wheat, I think it's a nice combo there. I was pleased to have made it that way. And in fact, I'm gonna try to make it that way.
Sounds great. Okay. And we just have a few other announcements before we end today's recording. We did want to mention that our next cooking demo will be on Wednesday, May 18th. And the recipe for that will be Jamaican jerk chicken. So we're hoping that you will all be able to attend for that as well. And if you do have any recipe suggestions for future cooking demos, please feel free to email us at virtualsmartliving@aging.nyc.gov. And I'll be putting that email address into the chat if anybody would like to submit suggestions. And also happy Mother's Day again to all of the moms in this room. It's a very special day and it's definitely a time to celebrate. And we're gonna just put on the flyer for a moment and then we will end the recording. So give me 1 second here. Okay. All right, and we're also going to just provide, again, credit to our sponsors. This event has been brought to you by the ACL Grant Virtual Smart Living Initiative in partnership with the New York City Department for the Aging.
Thank you, Rita.
Okay, let's end the recording.